From the man who brought some of our worst nightmares to life, Robert Englund himself takes a seat in the director's chair. This movie plays on those pay-per-minute phone numbers of the 80s and 90s. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, go on, you're too young to be here. This is my review of 976 Evil. This is what it's like to have anxiety about phone calls. We're introduced to Spike, played by Patrick O'Brien, who seems to have a bit of a gambling problem since he now owes Marcus, played by J.J. Cohen, his motorcycle's pink slip.
And the loaves of bread and baskets of fish in the kingdom of Harry.
I can just hear this room. This is Hoax, played by Stephen Geoffreys, and his mother, played by the late Sandy Dennis. It's the classic scenario of the suffocating religious woman who doesn't like her nephew tainting her baby boy. Thing is, Lucy took Spike in the absence of his parents, and is also withholding his inheritance until he turns 21. Spike isn't particularly fazed by the whole "you're going to hell for stealing" speech from his aunt, but fish randomly falling from the sky does tend to grab your attention.
Jesus Christ.
Not even halfway through this movie and God's fish are pelting people. On the bright side, fish sticks for dinner. There is an indication that this could be related to something Spike did. He didn't sacrifice someone or play with a Ouija board, but he did call this Satanic phone number. He got money he needed to keep his bike from the mouth of a fish trophy. Are you sticking with me here? The following day, while Spike rescues Hoax from being drowned in the toilet by Marcus's group, a man claiming to be a reporter for a religious magazine shows up to talk to Lucy. He found her by following the strong smell of fish. Meanwhile, we're shown what happens when the 976 number doesn't get its way. You see, if you call it, then you get something you want, but only if you do what it says, and there's no running from consequences. This is particularly important to Spike, as during his trip to the auto parts store, he almost steals some gloves under the number's orders, but ultimately decides against it. Because of this, he's nearly run over, but the reporter from earlier, Marty, played by Jim Metzler, saves him. This incident is shrugged off by Spike, who has a date with Susie, played by Leslie Dean, and by date I mean they go back to his glorified treehouse and have sex, while Hoax earns a gold star in the category of perv with a telescope. There is no need. Hoax finds the demonic number and gives it a call. He's told to go to the theater for a chance to meet the girl that he feels he's lacking. It works, and they end up having pizza together while Spike works to win back everything he lost to Marcus, which obviously puts the group in a great mood. Guess the date's over. But that doesn't mean that Hoax is just going to sulk. Using the instructions the number gives him, he pulls some dark magic shit with the intent to scare the shit out of Susie. Problem is, it does more than just scare her. Since Hoax can't keep his mouth shut, he ends up telling Spike about what happened. After this scuffle, Marty, who's actually a PI, finds where 976 Evil is located. This is where we meet the man behind the ominous voice, Mark Dark, played by Robert Picardo. Or so Marty thinks.
You don't have a real operator?
Oh, you see, this was an experiment. I built this myself. I used to live in Radio Shack when I was in high school. But didn't work out.
Hoax continues to reap the rewards of who or whatever is in control of that number. With this newfound confidence, Hoax takes back his phone that Lucy took from him. With it, he calls 976 Evil one more time to receive his full power. Marty actually witnesses what happens when someone calls the number, and is even threatened by whoever's in control of it. Angela, a counselor at Spike and Hoax's school, arrives to help Marty. Hoax goes to Marcus and his group to terrorize and kill them. He then returns home and kills Lucy. Sometime after, Marty and Angela show up, and while he gets knocked out, Angela enters the now frosty home. Here she discovers Lucy dead in bed and being eaten by her own cats. Hoax harasses Angela while Spike finally shows up, and distracts him with some fist fighting, so Marty can get Angela out of there. Spike manages to reach Hoax by reminding him of their road trip, at least long enough to throw him into the fiery abyss of hell. The movie ends with one last little something from Mark Dark, and the credits roll. I like the special effects here, which are provided by Kevin Yeager. Hoax's demonic look is pretty cool, and the stages leading up to it are solid. I won't hold you though, Hoax's demon voice is pretty ridiculous. Obviously the CGI, what little there is not good. There were a good bit of models used here, and they worked well. Stuff like the outside of the theater, Hoax's frozen house. This is all impressive in its own right. With things I've heard whenever Fright Night comes up, I'm fully prepared for the less than warm regards some may have for Stephen Joffrey's acting. However, I'm one of the people that actually enjoys his presence on screen. He's quite sympathetic and even relatable to a degree as Hoax, and I appreciate the relationship between him and Spike. I'm putting this in the pro section, but stick with me. This movie is actually pretty cruel. The deaths have some creativity and uniqueness to them, and yes, are vicious. One kill in particular that would punctuate my claim is when Hoax kills Marcus in the bathroom. We don't see it, but we hear it. I love the style of this film. It oozes grungy 80s. The atmosphere looks great and it fits the story. It's all put together in a very appealing fashion. Some of the night scenes almost feel like an elaborate Pepsi or car commercial is about to break out. The one-liners and bits of humor are a lot of fun. They do hit for me, even though they do frequently lean into dad joke territory. I can understand some complaints I've read about the plot being a little slow. If you're not invested in Spike or Hoax, it'll probably drag for you. I can't say that there are terribly high stakes here for any of the characters. At least it doesn't feel like it. The soundtrack by Steve Rucker and Thomas Chase doesn't really contribute to the vibe here. It doesn't detract either, in all fairness. It's simply passive, and I can't say with a straight face that I would be able to pick it out if I heard it on its own. The characters can certainly be a bit hit or miss for a number of people. I said Hoax could be relatable, but that's not the case for everybody, which would leave Spike for the audience to latch onto. And perhaps that wouldn't be easy either. Speaking of, it seems pretty redundant to have Marty and Angela around as much as they were. I feel it would have been better to have Susie live, and Spike do essentially what Marty did. On the subject, it seems very odd to have Angela come in so late into the movie, and serve virtually no purpose. For both her and Marty, I got very little to nothing to work with, as far as who they were and why I should care about them. The story is rather convoluted and confusing at times. One minute we're following Hoax and or Spike, the next we've got a PI pretending to be a religious reporter, and a school counselor running around because fish that fell from the sky. With all that being said, I'm giving 976 Evil 7 out of 10 bloody thumbs up. 976 Evil has many things that people expect and enjoy from B-horror movies. It's got fantastic 80s nostalgia, recognizable names and faces, and yet it doesn't get as much attention as I feel it should. It's dated, but in a charming way, if that makes sense. I find this to be a fun and entertaining film that I like to go back to from time to time. In instances where actors turn directors have attempted to make their own masterpieces, Robert Englund didn't fail here. Is it the best horror movie ever? No, but it is a good time, and I think that's exactly what Englund was aiming for when he made it. Interestingly enough, it feels like it would be right at home as an episode of Tales from the Crypt. I would recommend 976 Evil to demon enthusiasts, 80s kids, lesser-known horror appreciators, and anyone who would like to see what happens when Freddy Krueger's behind the camera. See you later. If you're looking for more demonic horror films, check out my reviews of these movies. Thank you to my patrons Michael Museo, Bronson Wright Wolf, Diana Moe, Sean Sheridan, and Raiders AK for supporting the channel.